Good morning.
Good morning.
What a day. This is a day that God has made, and I rejoice in it. Rejoice in it. That's how I begin every day, with that statement, that declaration, or something similar to this. And I'm guessing many of you have a similar practice. The form might be different, but this idea of acknowledging Source, the divine that gives us another opportunity to begin again, to enjoy being alive, to look for the good, to shine our light. You know, it's a common practice for those of us on a spiritual path. So that's how we begin our day, with that commitment. And then the day begins to unfold. And every challenge to living that commitment comes rushing to our face, right? Kids refuse to get dressed to go to school, or our spouse says something that we perceive as an attack on our character, or we get caught in traffic, or our boss wants us to work late, during the holidays, or we get a call from the bank telling us that we're overdrawn. Or, this has happened, right? Am I the only one? Or any number of things. A dear friend tells us that they have a life-threatening illness, or our dog gets sick. These are the things that sort of appear on our path as we're trying to walk this path, that do their best to challenge that original commitment to staying centered in our joy, in that rejoicing of that divine gift of another day. And before we know it, we get frustrated. We get kind of caught in that energy, that reactive energy, and we're like trudging through the muck of life as if we never even heard of a spiritual path. I see I'm not the only one then. But this is where the work comes in. These are the days that we have the greatest opportunity to be propelled into, quantum growth, a quantum leap in our growth. The days when everything goes your way and everybody's nice to you and things are flowing smoothly, generally not the days of the greatest spiritual growth. They're just not. Sometimes we need the challenge to grow. So I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and I'm seeing that there are certain, for lack of a better word, mindsets that can contribute to allowing us to be defeated by these challenges, and certain definite shifts that we can make in consciousness that will help us overcome those challenges and have that quantum growth that we all really want, and to have that amazing experience of being centered in our joy and in our love and in our peace, regardless of what's happening. So, here they are. So the first mindset that can sort of knock us off our game is our perception of situations and circumstances. Right? It's never what happens to you. It's always, how you perceive what happens that creates our experience of it. Right? Now, having said that, the reality is that we are in part emotional beings, so, it's normal and healthy for us to feel our feelings, be honest with that, at least temporarily. At least temporarily. The trouble comes when we allow that negative, reactive energy to sort of pitch a tent and camp out in our soul. That's where we get into victim consciousness. Oh my God, look what's happening to me again. And victim consciousness sort of binds us to the negative situations and invites those experiences to just keep repeating. So we really want to own that we have the power to determine how we're going to react to events and to not take things so personally. Remember Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements? That's that second agreement. Don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. He says, and I know, something about, nothing other people do is because of you. It is always because of themselves. It's always because of themselves. So maybe our child refusing to get dressed in the morning is not because of us. It's not like defiance. Maybe it's because, there's a test at school that they're apprehensive about. Or maybe there's been some bullying going on. Even if it is in defiance of us, it's really not about us. It's kind of, maybe it's the whatever they're going through, whatever sort of stage that they're going through. And so when we know that, then we don't get hooked into that being reactive and getting upset and just, which sort of escalates the problem. We can, more likely be willing to offer our support and encouragement. Even if we need to do that in a firm way. I'm not saying, don't be firm, but, it could be a real game changer for them and for ourselves. The same with our spouse who we think is attacking us, or the mother-in-law who calls to complain, or our boss. It's not about us. It's about them. Maybe there's some sort of fear coming up, or it's their perception that they're not getting their needs met, or some sort of expression of that false self that we've talked about here before. But when we know that, again, we don't get hooked into that energy that just escalates the problem. We're then free. We're free to remain in that peace, to remain in that love, to remain in that joy. And when we do that, then we're a light to others. We're a light that can help lift others. All right, so the second mindset that can seriously compromise our experience of joy is our resistance to what is. Those things that you just wish weren't happening. Those things, why is it we always seem to get caught in traffic when we really need to get somewhere on time? Why is that? And when we're caught in traffic, is there anything we can do? Sometimes we can find an alternate route, but most of the time, between here and there is just one road, so we kind of have to, sort of be there. And when we don't know that we have a choice, we can really, resist with all our might, can't we? Oh, move! Can't you see I'm late? Move! But when we have the choice, again, we know we have a choice. And we can choose to just sort of breathe into what is. Relax into what is. Enjoy what's around us, Look what's around. Oh, I didn't know there was a shopping center behind those trees. Never saw that before. Listen to music, maybe do an affirmative prayer, whatever helps us to be present. The same goes for anything that sort of brings up our frustration. Notice the next time you're frustrated. 9 times out of 10, it's really because you're resisting what is. Just notice that this week. When your guests arrive late, or you burn the Christmas turkey, or you're afraid you're going to miss your flight because you're standing in this really long security line, or they lose your bags. That's frustration comes from resisting what is. So if we can find a way to just kind of open our heart just a little bit, open that out, breathe through the heart, breathe through our heart, love ourselves, give yourself a hug. That's in those moments, you just want to give yourself some love, right? Love yourself. Maybe think of something, there must be something amusing about the situation. Laugh at it a little bit. Be present. Be present. So just try that. Try that this week. Okay. So the third thing, the third way that we block our experience of joy is by limiting our awareness to just our human physical self. You know, when we perceive situations and circumstances from just our human perception, we are negating the largest part of us. Who we are is so much larger than the physical. Who we are is so much larger than our thoughts. We're multidimensional beings. You know, and we are, yes, physical beings. We are mental, emotional beings. We are also our authentic self, which is that highest expression of our individualized self. And we're also that spiritual self. That spiritual self, who we really are before we come into this incarnation. When we leave, and even still when we're here, we are infinite, limitless, eternal, divine. We're a radiant expression of the divine. That's that self, that higher self that has never been hurt, harmed, or endangered. That's that self that remains in that transcendent peace, regardless of the circumstances. Some people call it the oversoul, or witness consciousness, or that observer consciousness. And we access this usually when we are, in deep meditation or other heightened practices, heightened states of awareness. But we can also access that sometimes when we least expect it, and even in a crisis. Even in a crisis. So 2 weeks ago, I took my dog Aurora back to the vet because the medication that they were giving her was not working. They thought she had a urinary tract infection, gave her antibiotics, but it wasn't working. And in fact, a week ago Monday, she kept squatting and like nothing was coming out. So I brought her back in, and they did an ultrasound of her and discovered that there was a growth on her urethra, on her urethra, which was blocking the flow. So, a moment of terror right there. So they then immediately sent us to the NC veterinary school, and they're amazing people there, I must say. But she was there for several days of all of these tests, poking her and prodding her and doing all kinds of things, trying to get a sample of, so they could know a definitive answer. And even though they couldn't get a definitive sample, they knew. They brought me in and said, 98%, this is cancer. This is what we see. It's cancer. So they're talking to us about, it's in a place that they can't really operate, and so it's the radiation and the chemotherapy and how many months that would give us, and the expense of it. I'm sure some of you have been in this situation before. You know how agonizing it can be. And my dog is just 8, so she's not that old. So it was really a shock. So I'm sitting in the room receiving this news, this devastating news, and I'm weeping. But at the same time, I had this amazing awareness. This awareness was happening, almost as if there was this self, this higher self that was above here, observing me crying, observing my dog, observing the doctor talking to me about what was happening, all with this kind of calm sense, somehow inexplicable sense of peace about it all. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, it was just amazing. And I felt sort of this warmth. Despite the fact that I was certainly going to lose my beloved dog, I just felt somehow that it was okay. I don't know how, but I just felt this warmth and this other self that kind of came in, this transcendent peace in the moment. Now, it didn't last long. It was really only a couple of minutes. But over the course of the next week, I noticed that I was sort of popping in and out of that place. You know, I would be in agony, and then I would access this place. It's really interesting. And I would go so far as to say as my children were doing the same thing. Now, when they heard the news, of course, they were devastated. They were just crying and depressed and, you know, trying to distract themselves enough so they didn't think about it. But I could see there were moments where they were accessing a higher awareness, that there were moments of peace in there. You know, has anybody ever experienced this, like in a moment of crisis or something, that there's another awareness? Yeah, some people have even told me that when they were little kids and something horrible happened, that there was this other awareness in there. See, we all have access to this. It's part of who we are. It's part of who we are, and sometimes we access it in a crisis, but we can also learn to access this place consciously. You know, consciously, whenever we want, through practice. The same kind of practice that I talk about here all the time. You know, connecting with source energy in meditation, in spiritual practice, regular spiritual practice, we can access that. Another way that we can help, that will help us access that realm, it's really a realm or a dimension, is to have a team of people praying for you. Our family had an amazing team of people praying for us. The amazing consciousness of the prayer team at Unity Center of Peace. Bless you. Bless you. What a powerful consciousness. And this is available to all of you. We also had other groups that were praying for us. So we felt, you know, at times we felt embraced by the arms of the divine. You know, just that sense of peace in certain moments. And we also, I think my husband probably more than I, there was a little opening for perhaps a miracle. There was just maybe a little bit of an opening. And a miracle is indeed what occurred. Last Tuesday, we went in there, and after a week of being there and all these tests that they were doing, poking her and prodding her, they could not find cancer. Hallelujah! They could not find cancer. They were baffled, absolutely baffled. They had never seen this before. They had to go way back in their research of finding this. Apparently less than 2% of dogs have this kind of condition. It's sort of a growth that can be treated with medication. And in the meantime, that growth had shrunk enough for her to be able to pee on her own. So we brought her home last Tuesday. It's our Hanukkah Christmas miracle. You know? Wow. It's the season of miracles. It's a season of miracles. What miracle is waiting to be born in you? What miracle is waiting to emerge? You know, the Hanukkah miracle, the miracle of 8 nights of light with only 1 night's worth of oil. An affirmation for the Jewish people, the continuation. You know, the Christmas miracle, 1 divine being of light here, born here to love us all awake. To love us awake. You know, the miracle in winter where everything appears lifeless and dark and dead, that indeed there is life in there. There's life that's just waiting for the right season to emerge. Just waiting. What miracle's waiting to emerge in you this season? What miracle? The Course in Miracles tells us that a miracle is a shift in perception. A shift in perception, given what we've talked about, isn't that true? You know, we shift our perception and suddenly we're free of the pain of resisting what is. And that is painful. We're free of the pain of taking things personally. We're free of the pain of seeing our lives from this limited human viewpoint. And we're creating an opening. That shift creates an opening. We're creating an opening. We're opening to the miracles that are all around us. That beautiful miracle. I love what you're saying about the breath and the meditation. That just occurred, what a miracle, that breath and this life and how we share that with everybody. The miracles all around us. The miracles within us that are just waiting to be born. So, shift. Create that shift in perception. Create that shift in consciousness. Open the awareness. And get ready for a miracle. Get ready. Yes? Yes. All right. Namaste.